Picture this. You're floating in the middle of the Atlantic Ocean. No boat, no land, nothing. Just a tiny rubber raft and black water in every direction. Then you look down, and the water is moving. Not with waves, with fins. Dozens of them, circling, waiting. This actually happened. 5 people climbed onto that raft. Only 2 came home. And the difference between the living and the dead came down to a single choice. One choice almost nobody talks about. October 1982. A sleek luxury yacht called the Trashman. The job sounded simple. Sail it from Maine down to Florida. Hand it over to its new owners. A routine delivery trip. The kind experienced sailors do without thinking. Deborah Kiley was 25. A natural on the water. Calm under pressure. The kind of sailor other crews trusted. With her were 4 others. Captain John, her friend Brad, and 2 more, Meg and Mark, less experienced but hungry for adventure. Day 1 was perfect. Blue sky, gentle swell, drinks on deck, laughter, stories. Nobody had any idea they were sailing straight into a nightmare. By the second day, the sky turned. Dark clouds stacked on the horizon. The wind picked up a sharp, wrong edge. And then the storm hit. It hit with almost no warning at all. And this was no ordinary storm. Waves climbed to 40, 50 feet, throwing the Trashman around like a toy. Water poured into the cabin faster than they could ever bail it out. And slowly, terrifyingly, the yacht began to sink beneath their feet. They had no choice left. They jumped into the freezing black water. Mark managed to launch a tiny inflatable dinghy onto the surface. One by one, soaked and shaking, they dragged themselves toward it. As Deborah and Brad swam, something brushed against their legs. At first they thought it was just each other in the dark. Then Brad looked down and saw shapes gliding beneath them. Sharks. Already gathering. Already circling in the churning water. They clawed onto the raft as the yacht slipped under for good. And that's when the loneliness hit them like a wall. No boat, no radio, just open ocean in every direction. And those fins, circling steadily, patiently, right below them. Then they slowly understood why the sharks refused to leave. Meg's leg had been cut wide open during the storm. She was bleeding into the water, and that blood was a dinner bell. The sharks weren't passing through, they were staying for good. But here's the twist. The real enemy wasn't the sharks. It was thirst. And it was about to decide everything. By the 3rd day, the storm clouds had finally cleared. In their place came a brutal sun that cooked them alive. Their fresh water was finished. Every throat began to scream. The ocean was right there, endless gallons of it, and every instinct begged them to lean over and drink. Deborah knew better. Seawater doesn't quench thirst. It kills. The salt pulls water out of your body and breaks your mind. She begged the others not to touch a single drop. But thirst was louder than reason. John and Mark started gulping it down. And within hours, their minds began to come apart. This is the choice that quietly decided who lived and who died. The 2 who refused the seawater kept their grip on reality. The ones who drank it slowly lost theirs completely. John was first. He became convinced he could see the shore. He talked about swimming to a store for cigarettes and beer. The others screamed at him to stay on the raft. But he slipped off and swam toward land that wasn't there. Seconds later, he was pulled under. He never came back up. The sudden silence told them everything they didn't want to know. Mark went next. The hallucinations swallowed him too. He spoke of running to the shop, of things that made no sense. And then he simply rolled off the side into the water. Deborah would call what came next the worst moment of her life. Watching the sharks take him, just feet away from her. In the chaos, the raft nearly flipped, throwing them toward the water. By some miracle, it righted itself at the very last second. But Meg was fading fast. The cut had turned to blood poisoning. There was nothing either of them could do to save her. By the next morning, Meg was gone too. Dead. And the 2 still breathing had done one thing the others hadn't. They stayed disciplined. They guarded their water. They guarded their minds. Now it was just Deborah and Brad, starving, sunburned, hollow. Brad, desperate, even whispered about eating Meg's body to survive. Deborah pulled him back. "Stay human," she told him. "Focus on living." Gently, they said a few quiet words for Meg over the water. They saved her jewelry to one day return to her family, and then they lowered her body softly into the sea. But the danger still wasn't finished with them yet. While cleaning the raft, Brad slipped and fell into the water. Straight into shark territory, with nothing between him and the fins. Deborah grabbed him with whatever strength she had left. But she was too weak to pull, and he too drained to climb. For a horrible moment, it looked like the ocean would take a fourth. Then, from somewhere deep, Brad found one last burst of strength. And he hauled himself back onto the raft, gasping and alive. They had been drifting now for 5 endless days. No navigation, no food, almost no hope left between them. They had floated nearly 90 miles off their intended course. And then, a shape appeared on the far horizon. A cargo ship, moving slowly across the empty water. By pure, staggering luck, its crew spotted 2 tiny figures. 2 specks on a raft in all that endless ocean. They were pulled aboard, given food, water, and medical care. Against every odd imaginable, they had survived the impossible. And here's a chilling detail you won't forget. Their sunken yacht had never even been searched for. A faulty signal told the world the Trashman reached port safely. As far as anyone knew, nothing had gone wrong at all. No one was searching for them. No one was even looking. They lived on their own discipline and one passing ship. But surviving the water and surviving afterward are 2 different things. Those 5 days never truly let either of them go. For years, Deborah was haunted by the deaths of her friends, by the sounds and the silences of that raft. Returning to a normal life felt almost impossible for her. Brad struggled too, describing it as endless, constant survival. Even long after he was finally safe on dry land. And there's one last thread worth mentioning here. Some have quietly questioned parts of the story over the years. Partly because only 2 people came back to tell it. We may never know every detail of what happened out there. But the lesson at the heart of it is hard to ignore. In the most extreme situation imaginable, it wasn't strength or luck that separated the living from the dead. It was the refusal to take the easy, deadly shortcut. The ocean offered them water that would kill them. 2 of them said no. And those 2 came home. If this story gripped you, stay right here. Because the next survival story is even more unbelievable. Subscribe now and